Hey guys, welcome to the You Are Worthy Network. Happy Thursday. I'm your host, Steve Wormer. Excited to be with you today. Excited to introduce you to a new friend and an exciting special guest. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her in her bio in just a second. But before I do, I just want to thank all of you for being a part of the network. I was just on somebody's podcast just a little while ago, actually, and we were talking about the You Are Worthy Network and how special it's been and how grateful I am for each one of you. And if you're new to the group, I just want to say thank you. And I want to say, if you're wondering what this You Are Worthy Network is, I'll try to be brief with that answer, although I'm a preacher and my answers aren't always short, but I'll try. It's You Are Worthy Network is a rebuttal to my own unhealthy mindset where I thought for years that I was not worthy of love, respect, and success. Anybody relate? And I said, you know what? I'm not staying in this place. I'm going to get a healthier mindset. I'm not going to buy that lie anymore, at least not very often. And I am going to do something to be part of the solution instead of complain about it. And I started to notice people all around me have struggles with worthiness and with imposter syndrome and limited thinking. And so I started this as a way to say, I'm going to bring a little bit of hope and a little bit of encouragement to a very dark world. And so I'm having the time of my life interviewing incredible people that are doing incredible things in the world, but that have also overcome a lot of things in life because we all are overcomers. And so I hope that whether this is your first interview you're listening to or your 50th, I hope you get value of it. I hope you get inspiration out of it. And I hope you resonate with the guest that is vulnerable, that talks about what they've overcome. That's, in short ish, what the You Are Worthy Network is. And you're like, Steve, can you quit talking and get on with Amanda? I get it, and I am. For 25 years, Amanda Johnson has partnered with individuals to rewrite or write personal, professional, and collective narratives as a friend, mother, teacher, facilitator, storyteller, brand and content strategist, and story saving guide. Her mission is to increase personal and collective narrative resilience by demonstrating the true transformational power and proper use of story. Known today as the Story Oracle, Amanda partners with organizations in helping professionals, creatives, coaches, CEOs, educators, and parents determined to accelerate healing and elevate resilience in themselves and those they serve. With her partners at Save by Story, she midwives paradigm changing brands and books, content, and more whole thought leaders and storytellers into the world. They learn how to mindfully utilize story to establish their legacy, maximize their opportunities for transformational impact and income, and complete chapters of vital personal renewal so they can change the world without unnecessary struggle and sacrifice. Fascinating already. Amanda, welcome to the Your Worthy Network.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. I love your moniker, but we'll get into that as we go. Tell us what part of the world you call home.
I'm in Temecula, California right now.
Tell people that may be watching that have never heard this Temecula,
Mhm.
California. I happen to know where it is, but some people may not. Where is it exactly?
Yeah, I'm in Southern California, about an hour north of San Diego.
Beautiful country, beautiful weather. Are you a native Californian?
I am. I grew up a little north of here in the San Bernardino Mountains in Lake Arrowhead. And that was a really fun place to grow up. It was a very small town and community. Yeah.
That's so awesome. Um, Tell us who you do life with there in Temecula.
I'm here with my husband. We just celebrated 25 years of marriage. Um, and it's just the two of us and our little pup, Betsy, who our son, he's 23, he left behind with us to go start his own adventure. So just the three of us here.
Okay, well, congratulations on 25. That's a big deal.
It is a big deal. It's like a miracle these days, isn't it?
It is. It is. My wife and I celebrate our 30th here in a couple of weeks. So, yes, 25 is a big deal for sure. And so the son that moved out and away, how far away is he?
He's in Phoenix, so a day's drive, not too
Yep.
bad. But he's
Yep.
really big.
I remember you telling me that. That's about what, 6 hours away?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what do you and hubby like to do for fun? Whether that's in Temecula locally or somewhere where you like to travel. What do y'all do for fun?
You know what? We spent our childhood in forests and near the ocean. And then we moved to Oregon and then to Arizona. And now that we're back here, we like our time at the ocean. We sort of missed that salt water and sand in the toes.
How far away, and this is my ignorance, like how
Yeah.
far away is Temecula from the local beach?
Oh, it only takes about an hour.
An hour. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds good right now.
Hmm. Yeah. I
Ah,
like the sand. I love the treasure hunting. I grew up, I spent a lot of time on the beach when I was little and treasure hunting with my grandma. So it's always lovely to go back there and see what gifts are on the beach for me.
do you like to do that at night too?
We haven't done it a lot at night, but it could be fun. We had a retreat here. Um, I think that was in January. We had a retreat and we ended up at a place in Oceanside and just really close to the beach. And one of my clients and we sort of got stuck down there after sunset. We were like,
Ah,
how do we get back to this place that we've only been to a few times in the dark? So we hustled. It was fun.
yeah, we like to do that at nighttime in Florida.
Mm.
But if you don't have a landmark, you get far down the beach, like, these condos are all kind of looking the
They all look,
same. I'm not sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's do a little fun here, or at least that's the intention. Let's jump in the time machine and let's go back to your senior year in high school.
Mm.
What I'm trying to do with this is get into the mindset of 17 and 18-year-olds because I think it's a fascinating time of life. I remember I had just turned 18 when I graduated, and as much as I disliked my high school because we had moved in the middle of at the beginning of my junior year, I just didn't have a good attitude about the move.
Mm.
So I thought I was ready to bust out of there. I was ready for the next phase. I was ready for college and knew what I wanted to be. And then it was like, yeah, my maturity level wasn't ready for all of that. But this isn't about me.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in where your mindset was. There's a week left before graduation. You've got the cap and gown. You've got the date marked on your calendar. You're can see it. You can taste it. It's right there now.
Mm.
Are you like ready to bust down the doors to get that diploma? You know what you're going to do. Maybe you already have a job. You're going to carry that job with you in the summer. You know exactly what you're going to do in the fall. Senioritis on a 12 on a 10 scale. Or are you all the way the other way? Like, I, I guess I better get a job. Not sure what I'm going to do in the fall. I'm going to miss this place. And there's no right or wrong answer. Are you somewhere in between? Where are you exactly at that time?
Well, my senior year was like one of my favorite years ever. It was the year that I met my husband and built a friendship with him before anything ever became romantic. we loved hanging out with friends. We loved worshiping under the stars. So at the end of my senior year, I was like just feeling that coming alive feeling. Things were starting to get romantic with him, and we were starting to talk about a future together. And I was valedictorian of my very small class. I graduated from a little Christian school in Lake Arrowhead. A whole bunch of eight of us graduated at the same time. And, eldest in the family, sort of leader throughout my academic career. I was pretty serious about going to college, and I had gotten into Biola University. So that week, I was looking forward to being at Biola, and I'm pretty sure that was probably around the time that I'd spoken with the director of the Torrey Honors, what's now Torrey Honors College there, which is a classic books program, and I'd had the most supernatural conversation with him about, coming to hang out in a place where it was designed to help me make my faith my own so that I could be on that adventure with whatever I ended up doing in my career.
Okay, so let me go back a half a step. So your graduating class was how many?
Eight.
Oh my gosh, you talk about knowing everybody.
Yeah, we all knew a little bit too much about each other for sure.
There's that for sure. Okay, so tell me a little more. What was it called? Tory Honors? Am I calling it right?
Torrey Honors College, yep.
And they specialize in.
It was a classic books program. It still is. I just went to my reunion there. It was really fun. And basically, instead of doing the normal undergraduate work, taking this many history classes and this many English classes, you signed up for a really intellectually robust experience working through the classics in a Socratic method. So there were some facilitators. I read more pages the first week of that school than I did in my entire like learning career up until then. I could not believe they told me to read 2,000 pages and come ready for a conversation. So when you talk about feeling unworthy, the amount of times that I knocked on that director's door, the one that I'd had the supernatural conversation with, I knocked on his door so many times that first year and second year, just like, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, why? Just let me go. I'm not smart enough to hang with these kids. I'm dealing with real world like situations. I'm thinking about getting married and, just I couldn't believe that I was there. So that was probably my first real serious brush with unworthiness in something that I had chosen for myself.
Make sure I got this right. You're 18.
Hmm.
You're in love with your future husband.
Hmm.
You're away at school. How far away?
Not too far, about a half an hour's drive.
But you're living on campus.
Mm-mm.
You're driving from home.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did I get the word count right? Were you required the first week to read 2,000 pages?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what the Iliad and the Odyssey amount to. Welcome, welcome to learning how much you don't know. Which is basically, it was rough,
What are
but
you doing besides sleeping, eating, and reading?
nothing, nothing.
And you got it
Apologizing
done.
to everyone else in my life because I'm really scared that I'm about to fail this thing that I just started.
Well, let's talk about that. Like at that point in time, what is your vision for yourself? Why are you going to school there? What is the bigger picture of what you're trying to achieve?
Um, I was always good at writing, so my first vision for myself was to become a journalist, probably write for a Christian magazine. Yeah, that was it. But as soon as I got into the honors program and, caught a breath and realized how important it was, how my particular education and background hadn't really cultivated any critical thinking skills in me, right? I was just sort of information in and information out, no questions, just the answers.
Mhm.
And so being in a space where, what do you think about this? And what do you think they were trying to say? And then having the facilitator say things like, I mean, maybe historical context is important, to understand why they were writing what they were writing, right? I started to develop an understanding of the need for history. And so I decided to become a history teacher. I would say probably my first year into college, I'd switched majors to social science and I was going to be a history teacher.
Okay. So as soon as graduation's over, you become a teacher?
Yep, I when I graduated from that school, I was pregnant, married pregnant. And so I got my teaching credential over the next, I don't know, year and a half with the little guy at home. And in between, you got to do some student teaching, some like in the classroom experience. Uh, and then I also started substituting. And I got a few long-term substitute jobs that, let's just say that they exposed a lot of the problems that are going on in education. And they also exposed my own lack of resilience to be able to give the kids what they needed. They had a policy, which I hear from my educator friends is still in place. New teachers often find themselves in classrooms with all of the kids that nobody else wants in their classroom. So, behavior problems, lots of crises, lots of learning challenges, kids who were 16 years old and couldn't read. So new teacher trying to sort out like
Mm,
all the things, right? And when I asked for help, there was no help. And then when I went to one of the other teachers that I was like partner teaching with, and I asked her just for help to understand how do you do that? How do you do a sliding scale with kids who are this behind? Like, what does that look like so that we can sort of match them up? And she told me to go get an antidepressant. And I thought,
oh my God.
I'm in the wrong place. I can't do this and be a decent human for the little human that I'm raising at home. So I left thinking I would probably come back someday, when I had developed some more resilience in myself and I didn't have a little kid at home that really needed so much of my time and energy. So yeah, I remember that conversation sitting across from my husband at the dinner table, just thinking, did I just waste all of this time in college and getting my teaching credential to just walk away from it, but I could not sort out how to do it and, you know, be the mom that I wanted to be. So I fortunately
So,
had an opportunity. Friend of the family had created, she was one of the best educators I've ever met in my life. And she'd created an online writing instruction company. So people who were really good, let's say, at math and science, but not so great with the writing, and oftentimes had second language challenges as they were trying to get into, different careers or college programs. So we would help them figure out how to nail those essays and write well in 8 to 12 weeks. We were getting such good results. I was able to start developing curriculum alongside her, help her figure out the system to make it even tighter. And I could do it all while my kiddo was sleeping, taking naps, playing. So that sort of got me moving in a direction of thinking about how maybe I could maybe there was a life where I could get maybe not all of it at once, but enough of all of it that I didn't feel like I was having to, really uh, lose on my obligations to the people in my life or to our financial well being. It was sort of a glimmer of what was possible with being an entrepreneur.
so how long did you even do the teaching? Was it a year?
Yeah, it was probably about a year, all said and done. the long-term substitutions. And I remember that last day, I was so emotional. I wanted to stay with those kids. I love them. I built relationships with them. I was working my tail off. And on the last day, the young man who was a drug dealer, he came in during probably his most lucrative time of the day. It was my very last day. I'd said goodbye, and he came in and he said, Mrs. Johnson, I just want to thank you because we all really felt like you were doing everything you could. So I want to thank you. And I also think it's only fair to tell you why it's so hard in this classroom. And so we sat down and he proceeded to tell me the stories of every young person in that room. And,
Wow.
this one, she lost her brother in a gang fight last week. This one is pregnant, hasn't told anyone. This one's being abused I mean, he knew everyone's story.
Wow.
And I just thought, wow, I mean, first of all, it's a kind of a different perspective to talk to the one that's being villainized at the school because sure, he was dealing drugs, but from his perspective, like he loved all those kids. He was trying to alleviate pain. And so that sort of shifted my thinking as I heard his story and everyone else's. And I just thought, there's a missing piece here. And I'm gonna figure that out because they don't need teaching done like this. They need to be treated like humans who have some real life problems and get them to a place where they can actually and imagine a different future. Because most of them actually didn't see a future at all. They weren't really, I mean, he told me that day. Most of us don't really expect to get past 18 in the neighborhoods that we're in.
So I want to make sure I heard you right there. That's powerful. So because of the kids and the system and the policies, the newness as a teacher, you had what the school system would call the most challenging kids. And he was benefiting financially from that because those are the kids he was selling to.
Yep.
But, or in addition to, he knew their stories and actually cared.
Mhm.
Um, so you're kind of taking notes of this guy.
Yep.
And how does that manifest itself into what you do now? I'm sure I'm missing steps along the way,
Yeah.
but like how was that the foundation of what you were going to begin to do?
Well, like I said, it was sort of what can I do to create a little financial well-being while my kiddos at home? And so I was working with the online writing instruction company, and we were going out and talking to people about this to try to market it. And we ended up going to a group of female entrepreneurs, a women's, business organization. And they were like, wow, that's really amazing, but we need you to help us fix what we've been writing, right? We have blogs and articles and brochures and websites and manuscripts that aren't getting it done. They're not really there's something wrong with them. Can you help us figure it out? So I ended up doing a little bit of editing on the side. I opened up my own little editing business and started to help individuals clean their content up. And around this time, I was also, when you're talking about the and this conversation about worthiness and unworthiness, um I'm like in my I'm 25, 26, 27, and from the outside people think I'm like amazing. I'm high achieving, top of my class. I made it through this, honors college and figured it out, and I'm married. I have this beautiful kid who's growing up really wonderfully, but none of them saw what was going on inside me. I really, really was falling apart. Um, I did not have a solid identity besides high performer. And that one was burning me out at 26 or 27 years old, right? I really felt like that was all people could see. And so here I had this amazing mentor who said one day to me, "When are you going to write your book?" Because I'd been able to edit hers. And I just was like amazed at what she had created. And I asked her how it felt, and she said, "It feels great. When are you going to write yours?" And that was one of those moments that sort of slapped me in the face of the realization that the image of myself that I had and how I felt about my life, my world, my potential, my ability to contribute was so different than what everyone else saw. It was a completely different story. And it kind of broke me. I immediately fell into tears. I gave her a hug, and she had asked me this question of what value, when you have something of value to give today, what is it? And that day was really the it was like a timeline change. It was like a quantum thing happened to me because I drove home asking myself this question: what value do I have to give? Sobbing down a windy road like an idiot. And halfway through, I had this memory of my son, who's about 3, I think, at this time. And just the week before, he'd been in a little tussle with my grandmother. We were living with her at the time. And there was one thing that I told everyone, speaking of unworthiness, never to ever, ever, ever say to my child, because I cannot promise what I would or would not do if I heard it, right? This is Mama Tiger. And that was to call him bad. People make choices, people make good and bad choices. But for me, it was really important for him to not internalize bad. I wanted him to, understand that these were the choices and they had consequences. So one day she called him bad. And I was running down the hallway. I did not know how I was going to handle the situation. But I was so mad. And I got to the end of the hallway and I saw him with his hands on his hips, looking up at her. He'd broken a mirror. She called him bad. And he said, "I am not bad. I made a bad choice and I'm sorry." And I thought, oh, my work is done. Like, mission accomplished. Like, I'd been working with that messaging for, 2 years trying to protect him from this internalizing bad. And he showed me that day that it had worked. And so as I'm driving home asking, what value do I have to give? I'm thinking, you know what? This kid is turning out pretty cool. And I think it's the result of all the education I've done, all of the psychology that I know about self-image, and the messages that I'm, nurturing him with every day and really trying to cultivate who he is and protect it. And so by the time I got home, it was like I was a different person. I asked my husband for another 20 minutes. I sat down, I wrote everything that I saw. I saw a book series, I saw a training company, I saw working with a teacher from The Secret. I saw things that I didn't even know what those things were while I was writing them down. And everything changed that day. All of those things that I saw started to actually show up in my life in one way or another. And that was the beginning of this work. I want to write a book. I have a message to get out. How do I do that? Meanwhile, I'm helping other people, edit their books and polish them up. And then I ended up in a facilitator training, which was around teen life skills. And that was really transformational. For about 3 years, I had the opportunity to work alongside master storytellers, people who every day used their stories to create connections with young people that no one else could get to. Leadership youth that were suicidal, juvenile delinquents who couldn't get their stuff together, and everyone in between. Their stories leveled the room and created transformation. And so that was really, for me, that was sort of the turning point. Just those few years of seeing this is the real power of story. I have a story about my kid. I'm watching stories change lives in a room. I'm watching people change their stories as a result of hearing other stories. I'm learning how to help people tell their stories in their books to make them more powerful and effective. So that was really the launch. It was 27, 28 when that happened.
I'm sorry, what year did you say?
I was 27
Oh,
when
you were
the
27.
idea struck me and all of that sort of changed. Yeah.
So I definitely want to come back to what you're doing now and what exactly is the story Oracle.
Mhm.
But how old was your son that day?
3,
That's what I
4.
was going to guess 3.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
You got a little emotional
Hmm.
describing that,
Yeah.
and you described high school, at least the senior year, as a happy time. It sounds like you were battling for sure your own feelings of unworthiness. What's the origin of that, do you think?
Oh, how long is this interview?
You
No,
don't you,
I'm
you
just
you
kidding.
you
I'm just
can
kidding.
you
I'll,
don't have to go too deep, but I
I'll,
am curious.
I'll do a high level overview. You know, I was the eldest, and very early I was made to feel very responsible for the younger, right? Like I have to be a good model. And then that happened in the church. And the church that I was in was so heavily focused on the sinner that I was basically you know, scared into salvation. And it wasn't until I was like my mid-teens, I had a different experience of God where I was, doing Mexicali trips and in worship where I actually had these experiences, even a conversation with God at one point while I was holding my baby sister around worthiness. And and so it was like everything felt like it was never ever good enough. Everything that I was doing,
Mm.
I had to earn it. I was, raised to be a high achiever, the one everyone looked up to, don't make a mistake. And when you have that kind of bar set for yourself, and what's funny is one time I said this to my mom and I said, did I apologize a lot? Because I was looking at a letter we found while we were looking through old stuff. And she said, you had impossibly high standards for yourself and everyone else.
Mm.
So the truth is this is probably also born into me, integrity, excellence, like it's part nature and part nurture. It just got um imbalanced. And also I think it's part of, that journey, as I see with everyone else's stories that I get to work with. It's part of the medicine that we have to give to other people. If I hadn't had that experience growing up and wondering about my worth and feeling like I had to fight for it and earn it at every turn, and I was always never going to be enough, I wouldn't understand all of my clients today who are these high achieving, overperforming people at the top of their game and their careers, and they're burning out. They're like ready for a change because there's some part of their story like mine in the past that hasn't gotten attention. There's some part of them that doesn't feel worthy or capable or something, fill in the blank, whatever it is. But when they step into a retreat with me or into session with me, they have someone who really, really understands it and can help them uh, see the actual story and then change it, as they're going through the writing process. So
I, I
it's all part of the medicine.
I see the connection. I see how God's using you.
Mhm.
For those watching that, like at this point in the interview, they're like, "Okay, tell me more." I hear this retreats. I hear this. She's alluding to clients. Tell us more about who you serve and how. What are the variety of ways that you're serving them, and what kind of results are they looking for?
Yeah, most people find me. I sort of have these two different individuals who find me. One of them are defined by, they're people who just have a great story. The person who had this unbelievably tragic thing happen. And somehow there was a miracle that came through that process. And so, um, they promised God in an ICU one night, if we make it out of this, I'm going to write this story, but couldn't write it for 13 years. And people were asking for it. Thousands of people were asking for this story. And so, she finds me and says, I don't know how to put all this together. I have 1,000 pages of content. It doesn't puzzle together. Can you help me? And we realized that one of the things that's keeping her from puzzling it together is because there's no, um, her grief hasn't been processed yet. A miracle happened, but a part of her humanity got left behind. And
Mm.
so her process of re-engaging the story and being able to tell it as honestly as possible so that she could connect with as many people as possible required her to go back to those moments and feel all of that grief and fear as a mom. So, someone like that comes because they just have this magnificent story. They're not really looking to be a speaker or a coach or create anything else, just a book. I promised a book. But then I do have individuals, quite a few of them, who are um, sort of looking for the next chapter and how to create it, right? They, like I said, they're playing at the top of their game somewhere in mental health or education or social work. And they're at a point, usually in their 40s, where they're thinking, like, how much longer can I pull these hours? Or it's time for me to figure out how to teach other people how to do this so that I don't have to do all of this by myself. But when they ask me, I don't know how to tell them. I don't know how to tell them how I do what I do, right? I'm just in it. Like 30 years of mastery. How do you just share that with someone, right? And so they are in a position where they need a change. They're ready for to scale their career or shift the way that they're bringing their expertise to the world, but they need someone to sit with them and help them to figure it out. Like, where did all this mastery come from? How did I learn this? What does it take for someone else to do this? And structure it in a way that other people can learn, and not just learn, but really, when we get into the story bits of their lives, there's a lot of transformative things that can happen for people as they're reading their books. So those are sort of the other people, right? They're professionals ready to become thought leaders, or sometimes they're really dynamic entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs who've accomplished so many things that they're ready to turn around and help the next generation figure it out. Here's all the business principles, or I need this book because I'm going to franchise this business. So this is going to be the way that I'm going to train people and get them excited about this journey that it's ahead for them. So, sort of that arc, building credibility and trust with a new audience, or leaving something behind because you're sort of in that last chapter and really want to make sure that you leave the legacy.
And the core of all of it is helping them share their story, right?
Mhm. Yep. Even
And
if they don't know that's what it is.
it's what you're there to help them with. And now you're not a publisher per se, are you?
We are actually Saved by Story is a publishing house. So we help from inspiration to impact.
Okay.
Some of the people that we work with in the writing decide that we are the perfect place for them. And sometimes we encourage them to go to other places because they're better fits for their, profession, or some of them decide to self-publish because that's their, it's kind of on brand for them. So we help them do that too. But yeah, writing all the way through launch. And we even have people who are building what the things that they did not think they would build on the other side. The lady who was like, I'm just going to write this book. I will never speak. I will never coach. I will never. Well, guess what happened as soon as she finished writing her book? We launched it. I remember the event, and everyone came up to her after and said, Will you come speak at? And she just looked at me sheet white.
Never say never.
It's okay. I know the presentation. So I helped her, build a presentation and figure it out. But yeah, so we sort of help them to figure out, put some legs under this mission that emerges as a result of telling their story.
Do you help them with the marketing aspect too?
Yes, we do. We help them sort of figure out how, where does this belong? How do you get there? Because we know so much about their stories because we've been helping them through the process. It's very easy for us to help them design all the content pitches and visual branding and all of that stuff that they need to really establish themselves in whatever world they're looking to influence.
Keep hearing you use this small two-letter word, we. This
Hmm.
this this idea um, all the way back to your mid 20s.
Hmm.
Back home after a year away, raising your little boy, and doing it all yourself at that point. Now I'm hearing we. What kind of staff are we talking about here?
I did most of all of this by myself, and I pulled together a little team of people, designers, everyone that I didn't know how to do what they did, and it was just too hard to figure that out. So all the designers required to create books, um, and so I would pull them together to help people self-publish. And, throughout this whole process, I'm raising my son and he's hearing all of my stories about this amazing thing that happened
Mhm.
at this retreat. And sometimes he comes and visits with my husband for dinner, a meal, as we're hanging out, starts to build relationships with the people. And when he was in his teens, he started to ask if he could come on retreat. And I was like, well, there's some very big stories that get told at these retreats, so up to you. I think you can handle it, but you should know. And he was like, oh no. So he's really starting to build relationships with everyone. And around that time, hybrid publishing is becoming a thing, and people want to, get their books published by a hybrid publisher because you get more distribution and you get someone's imprint. Like it's like credibility, right? My book was good enough for a publisher to pick up. And so we had some people exploring that. And every time one of them explored it, my son heard me throw the biggest tantrums because they didn't really care about our people. They, the houses that we were working with, I always ended up coming in as a consultant to make sure that they got it right, that they listened to what the author wanted, really understood the message because I don't think they really read the book. Maybe looked at the author's website to make sure everything was branded and like things that were so part of how I helped them to build it in the beginning and so ignored through the process that after enough tantrums, my son said, how about we just build our own? Like, let's just build our own publishing house. And he was 19. And I was
Mm.
like, I don't know how to build a publishing house. Do you? And he said, no, but I'll figure it out. And so he did. He built out the publishing arm. And I ended up folding my previous business into this one. So now it's writing, transformation, publishing. And then my youngest sister is our designer. So she does all the design and creative branding work with us visually. She's also one of our authors. She's a phenomenal writer. And my son does all the business systems and legal stuff and operational stuff in the background. And I get to do the part that I love to do, which is hang out with the clients and help with writing and transformation. So, but the cool thing is like
Wow.
everyone does that part together. We've all written books. We all understand what it's like to write something and be like, "Holy crap, do I actually believe that?" Like I need to go think about my life. So, we've all been through every single part of this process. So, it's a really unique experience for people to step in and just feel really seen, not just like we have a good process that works and they come out with great products, but like we see what comes up for them when they look at the cover and it's not quite right and they're not sure, you know. I don't know if I should say something. I don't know. No, this is the first time that you get to like really say, this is what I saw. This is what, and so that collaboration really helps them, just like the process of writing, it helps them to own their message, their story, their mission at a different level. So we see every single part of what we do as the opportunity to help them do that through the process.
I mean, you literally walk them through from inception to release. in some cases, even before inception. Um, what a story, pun intended. Um, tell folks where they can find out more about you and the incredible work you're doing, including the name of your retreats.
Yes. Okay. So the website is www.savedbystory.house. And if you're interested in sort of getting a little taste, there are a bunch of quest starters in there. So a whole bunch of things that you can sort of get through and see some free resources for wherever you're at. The retreats, the retreats are actually open to everyone. The first 3 days are story focal transformation. And so we use story and creative writing and storytelling to figure out like where are we stuck? Where are we settling? Where in our story are we just ready for another chapter? And how do we make that happen? And so those are called You Can't Make This Story Up retreats because that's what happens at every retreat. There are these incredible, call them synchronicities or miracles. Um, Sometimes they look like little mini collisions between people, but it always turns into like the most incredible medicine for people to change their story, enhance it, edit it, rewrite it completely.
You can't make this stuff up. Retreats.
Story,
Where do you have this?
story up retreats.
I'm sorry, say the whole thing again.
You can't make this story up retreats. Yeah.
Story up retreats.
Mhm.
And where do you have that at?
They're in a little retreat center in San Marcos, California. Our first one, our first one at this new venue is in a few weeks, and I'm so excited to have a beautiful venue to do this in. It's actually opening up way more opportunities for the creative writing to really expand. So I can't wait.
Wow,
We're,
wow, wow.
this one, this one's called Facts and Fiction. They all have a different theme. Sometimes we talk about power and responsibility or time and destiny. So they're all story focal themes, and this one's Facts and Fiction.
Facts and fiction. That is so cool. And we have all the social media links we'll include in the show notes too. So as we get ready to wrap up, there is a question that I haven't asked you yet that I'm interested in. What about your book? How many have you authored?
I have authored two by myself. One is Upside Down Mommy, and the other one is Upside Down Messenger. And then I've co-authored two of them. So You Can't Make This Story Up is actually a book also. And that is a compilation of 20 of my clients who have been through this process. And they write about the transformations that happened for them personally and professionally as a result of engaging their story in community with a guide, helping them to figure it out. It's such a fun book. Um, and then the last book that has my name on it is the one I'm probably the most proud of, and it's Raised by Story. And that's the book I co authored with my son. And this is how we launched Saved by Story Publishing, was with this book as its flagship. Because when he was about 3 years old, I was trying to figure out how to raise a kid outside of a church situation because I couldn't find one that I thought was going to work for us. And like, how do you raise a happy, healthy, moral human being? And so one day my husband said, it's Avatar: The Last Airbender, babe. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, no, it's Avatar: The Last Airbender. This is what we're using to help him understand the world right now. And when it's over, when the series is over, it'll be something else. And I thought, okay, I get it. I've just been in a classic books program. I know how to turn our living room into a classroom. And so I use story to help him think critically. And by the time he was 17, we were having conversations that I ended up begging him to write this book with me because it was so obvious that that approach had shaped his moral compass, to the point that we didn't have any teenager struggles. He never, he didn't fall into anything that most parents are really worried about their kids falling into. And I really think it was because of how we navigated story together. He just made so many decisions about what he would tolerate and what he wouldn't.
Oh, what was the name of that book again that you wrote with him?
Raised by story.
I love that. I love that. We have, and I say this almost every episode, we have a subtitle in our group called Your Story's Not Over Yet.
Mhm.
Feel free to use that or anything else you want, but what words of encouragement would you leave the viewers with aligned with the work you do?
I think the most important thing is to do whatever it takes to make you feel safe enough to engage. So if that means reaching out to a therapist or a sponsor or a guide or someone who, will sort of be there holding space for you while you go back through those stories, um, or if it's stepping into a community full of other people who are sort of in the same space, or just finding a trusted person. That safety piece is really important. And it goes all the way through to who do you tell about this idea that you have? Um,
Mhm.
you know, don't tell everybody that you're going to start working on a book until you
Woo.
feel excited and ready and certain and safe with it yourself. Because there's no faster way to keep yourself from finishing that book than to tell people that you are writing it and then to feel like they're waiting. How am I going to tell the truth? Am I not going to tell the truth? Like it's just not a good position to put yourself in. So safety first.
Safety first, wise advice for sure. Amanda, I want to thank you for being vulnerable with us today. I saw that more than once, and I appreciate that. I appreciate your relatability. I appreciate the struggle. I appreciate the work you're doing now. I don't think we talk about our stories enough, and they really are what connect us
Mhm.
as the human race. Like, I may not have the same struggle you are, but I can relate to the process, to the growth of getting to the other side. And we need people to help us tell those stories. And we want to get those stories out. God wants those stories to get out. So I think the work you're doing is vital. And please keep doing it. Keep shining a bright light in that area for sure. But I want to thank you for sharing with us today. It's been awesome.
Thank you for Thank you for dropping in with me. I appreciate it. It's great.
Absolutely. Guys, check out all the socials that we're going to post for Amanda on the website, or not on the website, all her socials on the network, and check out those retreats. That sounds fascinating to me. Even she said it was open to guys and gals. That's not always the case. So, guys, if you're listening in, I don't know, you might want to check it out. But great, great stuff. Your story is important.
Mhm.
The story in you right now that you haven't told is important and needs to be heard. And if you're in a season where it's difficult or challenging, keep going. It's just a chapter. Hopefully, it's not a 2,000 word chapter, but it might be. I've had some long chapters. But the good news is it's not the entire book. Some of the best chapters in your life are still in front of you. Be encouraged by that fact. Until next time, God bless. Take care.